Hi guys, I'm super excited to share a completely free tool with you guys that I'm really hoping will help make the process of getting mock interview practice much more accessible to those who currently couldn't afford to pay for mock interviews. And that is um, a tool that leverages generative AI in order to provide a realistic mock interview environment. It's fed in with a whole load of mock interview questions that I've produced, hints that I've produced, and answers that I've produced, with the hope that then the large language model can leverage those to provide a realistic experience to you guys. Um, Currently, I've only produced this for economics because that's the subject I studied, but I'm hoping if it gains traction, then over the next year, I'll roll this out for a suite of different subjects. So without further ado, I just wanted to show you guys how it worked. Because I am really, really excited by it. I think on first testing by me, it provides a very realistic experience. And one thing I would like to emphasize is this is a work in progress. I'm sort of working on this completely on my own. And so there are lots of bugs in this. But I wanted to get it out for this interview season, so I'm aware that people will be having their interviews realistically over the next few days. So, in order to try and help as many people as possible, I rolled this out. So there are bugs, but hopefully they'll be developed. So, I'm just going to sign up with an email address. Um, Ooh, I actually don't have an account for this email because I wanted to show you guys setting it up. Currently, only Cambridge Economics is available. Obviously, if you're someone applying for Oxford Economics and Management or PPE, you might also find it helpful. Um, let's avoid reading my password out loud. Um, so I've now signed up because I'm a new user. I'll get a tour. Note there's a little restart tool button up the top if you're ever confused, but let's follow this along. So at the top, there's recommended topics for you. This is out of the bank of sort of 8 different topics I think often come up at interview. At the moment, if I'm entirely honest, this is completely static. This doesn't change based off your feedback or anything like that. The plan is long term to roll out some sort of algorithm for recommending topics for you to work on. Um, you can track your progress. So I can see that here I've completed 0 out of 5 extract questions. It's probably important to note if there's a multi part question, those count separately for the number. So here actually there's only one like extract to work on, but there's 5 questions on that extract. So this is something I'm planning on building out to make it a lot bigger, but because I'm trying to deliver this for you guys before the interview season, that's why this doesn't have a huge number of questions on. Um, so then you can start your practice. You can also view all the questions. For some topics, there's a little guide for how I would approach them. Again, all work in progress. You can, after your sessions, you get a load of feedback generated by the AI, and you can record your own views. If you want to view that later on to perhaps look for trends, perhaps you could copy and paste all your feedback into GPT and ask for where they see weaknesses. You can see that in the My Feedback tab up here. Um, you can also see your stats and submit feedback. Please, this is super important. This is a work in progress. If you have any bugs with this or anything you think would mark a real improvement, please do let me know because I'm working on this live. If you submit something for me to improve and it's a relatively straightforward fix, I will try and fix that within a few days. Then, if you wish, there's a interview mode where it sort of randomizes the questions for, say, 5 questions, as if you're in a real life Oxbridge interview. So now then it tells you to test out a question. I'm actually just going to pick a specific question. Oh, sorry, that's the guide. I'm going to pick a specific question to work through because I know it's nice and easy for me to work through while speaking. Um, so hopefully the guide will pop up. It has. Here's the question. If you want to turn off AI tutor mode, feel free. As I said, it's a work in progress. So you might actually find that you personally prefer just working through with the hints and answers that are here. If that's the case, let me know because it would be great to know that that's not actually adding value and it's more just the questions that are. This is again a bit that I've been working on, which is uploading pictures of any workings you've done, or let's say you're drawing a graph, uploading a sketch of that. This again is a work in progress. The tool works much better with mostly spoken word because it's using a GPT in voice mode. But sometimes with a graph, it's very helpful to actually show that to them. And so you can, if you're on your phone or your tablet, you should be able to take pictures of your work. If you're on your computer, you should be able to open a QR code, and I'll show you this later, that then you can scan with your phone to upload a picture. And then you press sync photos from phone in order to load that onto the screen. Now, why didn't I use a whiteboard? Basically, I just, in the time constraints, couldn't get a whiteboard that was working effectively enough. You can also see the hints and model answers, although the GPT interviewer will work you through these, so I'd probably recommend not using them at the start. You can also see them when you're looking at your performance at the end and then submit your feedback. And actually, I need to update this, but it should also be receive your feedback because the AI generates some feedback for you. What I have found is it always gives you some positive feedback, some negative feedback. I've tested out sort of being a bit rude to the interviewer and saying I don't want to do this question, and it will still give me some positive feedback of saying that at least you were direct. Um, so the feedback, take it with a pinch of salt, but I think on aggregate, so long as you keep it in your mind that there'll always be some positive and always be some negative, that if you read into the feedback, it is generally quite helpful. Okay, so now I just wanted to test out an example with you. So,
Sketch the following graph, pointing out key features. What is the domain and the range? What are your thoughts on the domain and range of this function?
okay, guys, so here's where you can see the first bug. I turned up the volume and it thought I said thank you very much, but I didn't. So now I'm going to go back to talking to you, AI tutor. Sorry, I've got a friend that I'm showing this tool to, so you'll hear me speaking to them, but when I speak to them, please just ignore me. So going back to the question, if we just replace f of x with y and square both sides, we can see that this is effectively the equation of a circle. We get x squared plus y squared is equal to 4. Now, we've squared this, which means it's not actually quite the equation of a circle. But if it was that equation of a circle, it would be a circle with center, the origin, and radius 2, which would mean it would have domain -2 to 2, range -2 to 2. Now, what's the effect of squaring it? Do you think you could give me a bit of help here?
Sure. Squaring the equation gives us the full circle equation. But remember that the original function, f of x equals square root of 4 minus x squared, only considers the positive square root. This means that our graph will only include the upper semicircle, where y is non-negative. Does that help clarify?
That does help clarify. And now, talking back to my friend, this is probably where at interview the GPT has unfortunately overshared here because it would have been nice for it to get me to work through figuring out that it was a semicircle. But turning back to you, AI interviewer, that means that the domain still remains -2 to 2, but the range is from 0 to 2. Now, if I wanted to, here's where I could upload an image of my work. I could press upload from my phone, get this QR code, scan it with my phone, and upload a picture. But for now, I won't. Instead, I will say to the interviewer, does that cover everything that we need to discuss on this question?
Yes, that covers it. Thank you for your answer. I'm ready to move on to the next question if you are.
Fantastic. Which means now I'm going to press done, and hopefully it will generate my feedback. Okay, so shows the question up here. It gives the hints if you wanted to look at them. Um, the answer is more complicated than I sort of spoke out, but that's because I have to be really thorough to give the GPT a really good basis to help guide you. Then you can see your transcript. Um, and then hopefully really usefully the tutor feedback. So I'm distracted by your friend. I think the fact that I was talking to you guys will make my feedback a little bit more useful. Sorry, a little bit less useful because obviously that's not something you'd ever really be doing in an interview. But I think basically the feedback here has focused a little bit too much on the fact I was talking to you. But unfortunately, that's a fact of life and something that I can't change whilst trying to guide you through the question. But it's still reasonably useful. For instance, the making sure to check the signs and branches and concluding clearly. Then I think really actually it's your feedback, your personal feedback that's most important. The purpose of this mostly is to give you guys an experience working with an interviewer because I think that's something that's really hard to get organically unless you have the financial means to pay for a tutor. And so I'm hoping most of the benefit of this is actually just in talking through your answers and experience doing that under just a little bit of pressure. So I didn't find this question too difficult. I thought it was pretty medium, so I'm going to put three. I thought this question was very high quality, so I'm going to put five. And I feel reasonably confident now. That's all the compulsory stuff to fill in, so I can now submit my feedback. If you're going to be very generous to me, then you could put in feedback on the hints and the answers, um, and put in comments on the AI tutor. How you found this practice session, actually, that's feedback for you with the goal that in future I have an AI that learns from what you said about the session and figures out whether you want to do more of that sort of question or work on something else. But for now, I'm just going to submit the feedback. I could go on to the next question. I could go back to home. I'm going to go back to home. Now, if I wanted to say that there was a bug with this, then I can add in a feature request or talk about bug. Um, or if I wanted to view my previous feedback, then I can look here and I can look at what I've said about the question. I can also look at the answer, which I found super helpful. Um, that's all for now, guys. This is a free tool. It's obviously costing me a little bit because I have to pay for your API credits, which effectively allows you to connect to GPT, and I'm developing the question. So please do give me as much feedback on this as possible. Try not to abuse it, but let me know if there's any problems. Thank you very much, and I'm super excited to share this with you because I'm really hopeful that it'll be a nice, accessible tool. All right, bye bye.